Meeting will come to order. I'd like to welcome everyone out to the November the 3rd, 2025 Council County Board of Commissioners meeting. If you would, join me in a moment of silent prayer followed by pledge of allegiance to the United States flag. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have before you, gentlemen, tonight's meeting agenda. Mr. Smith, you had contacted me about an addition.
Yes, sir. I wanted to add a discussion of the COLA increases for part-time employees for this budget year.
All right, any objection? No, let's make that item 13A, if that works. That would be part-time employees COLA.
Yes, sir.
Part-time county employees COLA adjustment.
Just a clarification, is that part-time temporary employees?
Full-time. I mean, we can discuss that, but that was my intent, is full-time, excluding commissioners.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, adding item 13A?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Ingram,
Second.
second from Commissioner Smith. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Announcements and recognitions. I'll start with you, Commissioner Claggett.
There's a Veterans Day ceremony Tuesday, November 11th at 11 a.m. Yanceyville Pavilion. Guest speaker is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Tipton. And bring a chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank all the ones that was at High Rock Community Center this past weekend on Saturday for a Community Connections Day. And I want to thank everyone that actually got it started, had vendors, and we had a good crowd there that was from 10 to 3. Thank everyone that participated.
Thank you. Commissioner Rose.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes, I would just like to thank the county manager and economic developer for their efforts in coordinating the Cherokee Tobacco Company groundbreaking. It was well attended and well advertised, publicized.
Commissioner Totten.
Nothing.
Commissioner Holt. I have a couple that I'd like to recognize. First off and foremost is our veterans. Veterans Day is be here in 8 days. Am I right, Mr. Claggett? 8 days, 11th. Today's the 3rd, 8 days. Without these folks being willing to serve, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. Veterans, we owe them a very deep gratitude. Secondly, as Commissioner Smith has alluded to, the groundbreaking was held on the October the 22nd for Cherokee Tobacco Company. Excuse me. And I would like to thank Ken Bowman, our current economic developer, but I really want to take just a moment to thank the gentleman to my immediate left, Tony Smith. Tony served as interim county manager and as economic developer when all of this came together. And I think we owe him a big thank you, more or less. By far the largest private investment, economic investment I think this county has seen. Some counties might scoff at the number, but for Caswell County, it's a big number. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Public comments.
We have Rebecca Page.
Okay, I just want to remind you all of the Caswell Farm Tour Day that's going to be this Saturday, November the 8th. I hope you've been seeing these posters all over the county. There are 4 farms on the tour. It's Baldwin Beef, Rainay Alpaca Farm, Century Farm Orchards, and Simmons Tractor Museum. And they're all open for tours and activities from 9 to 4. So come out and support this, enjoy it, bring your grandchildren, your children. And if you want to know more information or directions to the farms, go to visitcaswell.com/farm tour. Or if you see one of these posters, you can just scan the QR code. We're coming up in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Anyone else? Mr. Whitaker?
And that's all we have.
Thank you. Moving on down to item 7, reports. Gentlemen, you should have seen there in your agenda packet, report from Ken Bowman, our economic developer. No action needs to be taken. This is just for your information. See what he's got going on. And then, now, moving on to number 8. Broadband update. Mr. Jeff Brooks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. It's humbling to be asked to come back, so thank you very much. I can't believe after the first time I was here, you can put up with me. Here we go. I would like to, just as you did, say thank you to the veterans. You guys were willing to die for me and my family. I take that very seriously. It's not just a bunch of red, white, and blue. You were going to sacrifice yourself for me. Thank you. My wife, my children, thank you. Here to talk about broadband. As you know, I don't read slides, and Scott's kind enough to work with me on slides, so I'm looking at it. If the laptop doesn't die, if it does, it'll be a very short presentation. But I'm going to give you a very quick overview of where we are in the state, talk specifically about what we're doing in Caswell County, and of course, be happy to take any questions that you might have. So Scott, I hit the button. You know what? Let's not worry about it.
You just tell me where to start in your presentation.
Well, you can go way back. Yep, you can go way back. I think I sent you one that was out of order because the communications people send me one and it doesn't have anything about Caswell County in it, and that won't work because there's supposed to be, oh, there's the county seal. You know what? I don't need that. Here we go. I'll just kind of talk from here. So we've had a number of different programs that have come into North Carolina over the past few years. Most recently, we've had programs that were funded by the American Rescue Plan. So a total of about $970 million that was approved by the legislature to fund the programs, which include the GREAT Grant, Growing Rural Economies Through Access to Technology, the CAB program, Completing Access to Broadband, Broadband Pole Replacement, and the Stopgap programs. In addition to these programs, which are in process right now in terms of different phases of construction design, and I'll talk about that with respect to Caswell County in just a moment, there are 2 other programs. There's the BEAD program, which is a federal program, Broadband Equity, Adoption, and Deployment Program. And then there, again, is the Stopgap program, which I mentioned earlier. We've not rolled that one out yet, probably will not be until January. So, yep, you know that. Brief stats, 127 GREAT Grant projects in the state. 138 CAB Round 2 projects, 41 CAB Round 1 projects, total of 321 projects about $700 million in investment by the state, serving about 260,000 locations. We still have 100,000 locations that don't have access to broadband. That's a nice map. That's a good map. In Caswell County. Wow. You're about there, yeah. So in Caswell County, there are 4 projects that are underway right now. 2 from Charter or Spectrum is they're called in the marketplace, and 2 by Brightspeed. So the Spectrum project is currently in construction phase. What this means is they're actively building fiber, putting network connectivity into place. Our programs have a construction period of 2 years. So from the time a contract is signed until the provider has to certify that their network is up, operational, and they're ready to take orders, it's a 2-year, 24-month timeframe. We monitor that project for an additional 3 years to make sure that the provider is delivering the throughput or the speed that they said they would and that they agreed to in the contract they have with us. So Charter's first project is a great grant project. It's due to be finished April of 26. They're serving, do the math in my head, 855 locations. That's 844 residential, 11 business. Total value of the project's about $3.5 million. The next project I have is Brightspeed, 289 residential locations, no businesses, no community anchor institutions. It's about a $1.6 million project, should be finished by September of 2026. Then we have 2 completing access to broadband programs. And I don't know if you remember, but we actually had 2 rounds of the CAB program. So CAB 1.0, that was a charter project, about 590 locations, all residential, no non-res locations, about $3 million total value. And then Brightspeed, 500 and do the math in my head again, 565 total locations, of which about 20% of those are non-residential locations. Now, Charters has been contracted. It's due to be complete by October of 26. So probably about now, they finished their negotiations with the utility pole owners. They're working on permitting. They're making sure they don't have any issues with road crossings, with access to railroad interfaces, and even if they had like a water or stream crossing, in which case they'd have to have the Army Corps of Engineers involved. So the result of this is they will produce what are called as-built. That's like the blueprints that they'll actually give to their contractors. And that's what the contractors will use to begin the physical construction of the network, whether it's in the air on poles or whether it's in ground in the DOT right away. The last one for Brightspeed, it's under contract. It has to be complete by December of 26. Now, this kind of squishes that 2-year program a little bit. But Brightspeed has advised that even though we show their status as contracted, they have finished all their design, all their outside plant work, and now they're in the process of actually beginning to do the create the as-builts. Now, in terms of BEAD, the Broadband Equity Adoption Deployment Program, I continue to get messed up. I know this is on the record, but off the record, this is a very frustrating program. We were originally allocated about $1 million through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Something and Jobs Act. I don't remember what all the parts of the acronym are. Our mapping people went back and told the National Telecommunications Infrastructure Agency, the entity that is really driving this program, you missed some addresses, like a lot of them. Number changed from $1 billion to $1.5 billion. So we and every other state in the union we were working on this. In June of this year, there was an about face by the federal government, and they said, nope, you can't do it the way you've been working on it. We know that you prefer fiber because it's a permanent connection to an address, but we don't want to do that. We don't want fiber to be preferred anymore, technology neutral. So they gave us 90 days to come back and change everything that we've been working on really for 3 years. The end result of that is that when we submitted our first proposal back to the NTIA in DC, they shot it down and sent it back to us. Too much money. Now, we got $1.5 billion that was appropriated by the Congress. They said, nope, too much money. You need to cut your costs. The only way to cut the cost was satellite. So I've got some actual numbers here. So when it's all over and done with, 30% of our locations in North Carolina that were BEAD eligible are going to be covered by satellite. About 67% are going to be covered by fiber, and the remainder are covered by some other type of technology. The issue that we have is satellite's not permanent. It's not built to a location. It's not attached to a house or a business. Instead, it's portable. Whoever lives there can pick it up and they can take it with them. The cost for deployment is very low because both Amazon and Starlink bid really low numbers. So we've been round and round and round. I think we're on the fourth iteration. I don't understand how the federal government can be shut down and yet still shoot down the proposals that we have going back to them, but they managed to do that. We've been able to recover a little bit of fiber back into the deployment. Part of that is saying, hey, we're willing to cross fiber lines or county lines with fiber projects if the service provider can figure out what an ROI, positive ROI might look for them, return on investment. So we have 270 locations in Caswell County that are residential locations that will be served by BEAD. We've got 3 community anchor institutions. Brightspeed has a few of these. Amazon and Starlink have the rest. If the map's up there, and you should have, it's in color to me from here. But Scott, I'll send you the breakdown of the numbers so you'll know how many of each, and you can send that to everyone. The stopgap program is started, stopped, started, stopped, started, stopped. It just depends on what mood the legislature was in, whether we could start it up. It looks like we're going to start it in January. What we're going to try to do is to get to every last location in North Carolina. I don't know if we have enough money, but we had some left over from GREAT, some left over from CAB. So the legislature has told us we can use those funds to roll out the stopgap program. So there is, thank you. There is a stopgap map that's available online, and you can go in and actually look at the addresses. And again, I'll run some numbers because they actually changed this past Thursday. I'll run some numbers and I'll provide them to Scott to let you know how many addresses that there are and the locations of the addresses so that you know. I think that's about it, other than for me to tell you just about inquiries. We continue to get a lot of inquiries, including calls from folks in Caswell County. We handle about 40 to 50 a month now. It's gone down some, I believe, as we've started to have more deployment in place. I would say about 60% of these, I don't have broadband. What are you going to do for me? About 25%. What I have doesn't work, whether it's an outage for traditional telephone service or DSL. If a citizen calls us from Caswell County or any other county, we're going to try and help them. We have pretty good luck in elevating issues. For example, after Chantal, a lot of service providers' infrastructure was down. Some of it here in Caswell County, a lot of it in Chatham County, Alamance County. We had residents calling in and they were being quoted repair times of 2 months, 3 months. We made some calls and we were able to get those escalated, get those folks turned back up fairly quickly. So I just say that if you have residents call you, I got an issue related to communications, please have them call us or email us. We'll do everything we can to expedite a resolution to the issue. That's what I got. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for trying to work muckety-muck visuals. I appreciate that.
Any questions for Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions. Mr. Brooks, have there been any contracts awarded for the BEAD project in Caswell at this time?
I'm sorry, for what project?
Any contracts been awarded for BEAD in Caswell?
No, that's a great question. We're back and forth and back and forth. The awards are tentative because we keep trying to take satellite locations off the map. We don't think contracts will be executed probably until December. Once they're executed, then we'll do a NOFA, notice of funding availability, and put guidance out for stopgap. Now, there are some counties where we've been told that service providers are looking at the BEAD maps. They're actually thinking about making decisions to invest themselves in a project. If they see there's some locations they could reach with a BEAD deployment that they're been awarded, and they're saying, hey, if I have these locations here, maybe I just put a little more money in and go here. We're actually having those discussions daily because we want to encourage that.
The 270 households that are targeted, are they all fiber connections or do you have some satellite connections in that?
The majority of them are satellite connections. There are some fiber connections through Brightspeed.
Can you get the same speeds, satellite?
No, sir.
Okay, but you can get the minimum.
Satellite says today they can do 220 megabits down. They can do 120 up. Amazon says they'll probably increase that by 75% whenever they begin to put their constellation up. And Starlink said they will also enhance their speed. The issue with satellite, just candidly, is that there's going to be a lack of bandwidth available. So we'll get to a point where the airways will get saturated. You have a constellation of 60 in the sky, and about 10% of those fall out every year, so they keep having to replace it. Those 60 are talking to one satellite that talks to the Earth station. So if you begin to load that satellite up, you're going to load up that link, and consequently performance will suffer.
Well,
It's
good.
better than nothing.
Yeah.
The other issue I have with satellite, and again, my personal opinion, I think about the fact that our residents who live here in Caswell County, and you've heard me say this, I don't really care if they're rich, poor, male, female, don't care what color. My job is to serve all of them. But my frustration is that the satellite services are significantly more expensive than the terrestrial services. I mean, like double the price and sometimes more. And it's very frustrating for me to think about households in the county or other locations as well, where affordability becomes an issue for them to have access to broadband.
Good luck with that. Getting it changed.
Thank you.
One last question. What areas of the county are currently most underserved or unserved, would you say?
That's a great question, and I probably need to send you a map.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Brooks, thank you for coming tonight. So you're saying right now we're in the phase of the stopgap program, correct?
We're right now in the county, there are 4 projects that are under the GREAT program and the CAB program. We expect the stopgap program to be announced late December, early January. So we've not put bids out for those locations yet.
Okay, what program, I guess, will be going on at this particular time?
That would be in Caswell County, it's the GREAT grant program and the CAB program. Both of these are state programs. I am not aware of any activity in the county through the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Reconnect program, the FCC's RDOF program, or any other program at this time.
Okay. Reason I'm asking, I understand you said that you've gotten several phone calls, but unfortunately, people are going to reach out to their elected officials to try to get some answers. I had a lady in the district in which I live, Spectrum came out and talked with her about, running fiber and everything, and said they were supposed to get started in October. Well, nothing happened in October. She called back and they said it would probably be in December. So what program is that running under?
It would feel to me like that would be a great grant, but because I'm not aware of an FCC RDOF
Right.
address in the county, but if you could send me her address, A, I'll look it up, and B, I'm happy to call her directly, and I'm happy to carbon copy you on the email. Normally Scott is the person that gets barraged with my carbon copies, but
Right. I just didn't know if it was under this stopgap program due to the fact that they were, out talking with people, and you said that they apparently are not going to start any work on this to January, correct?
that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Cook, the 270 residents, how did that come about, the number? What is the procedure that was taking place in order to arrive at the number 270?
That is a question that's asked a lot, and it's a very good question. So every time a service provider advises our office and the FCC that they have built fiber capabilities or broadband capabilities to a specific address, then we mark that address as being, they call it served, as access to broadband. And everything else is marked as being unserved. So we get to a point with this BEAD process where we begin to take responses for the BEAD program. And so Brightspeed, Amazon, and Starlink all said, oh, we want to bid on these addresses in Caswell County. So we make all the addresses that are unserved available, and they decide which addresses to bid on, and that's what we look at. Then what we try to do is we have one fiber provider that bid. We try and figure out, is there any other way to get more fiber to these addresses? If not, we had no choice but default back to the satellite because that's what the federal government wanted. When we send it in, the very first thing the federal government does is they look at the fiber addresses and they try to eliminate those. They want to force us to assign virtually every address to satellite, and we don't want to do that. But that's how the 273 addresses came out. When we do stopgap for those addresses that were on the stopgap map that would still be unserved, that will be like CAB. So we'll put a request for proposal out, we'll get responses back, and our goal is to say, what is the best decision for Caswell County and for the residents of the county with the money that we have available? And we always push for a fiber solution because it's a permanent solution.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
everyone. It's nice to see you. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
All right, recognition of veterans, Janine?
My glasses off so I can read this. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Janine Everidge. I am the Director of Caswell Senior Services, and I want to thank you for allowing me to come and speak this evening. I wanted to take this moment to recognize the veterans of Caswell County. These men and women have served their country during war and peacetime and have all given us so much in service and continue to give this to the folks of Caswell County. They build ramps. To date, they have built 106 ramps. Most of them are sitting right here. They held a car show earlier this year to raise money for the ramps. Each time they have discovered a grant available, they've applied for that grant. They will take someone to their doctor's appointments. They will help put grab bars in showers and tubs. They will put a new door or a window up for someone. They've helped me and my husband trim trees and bushes at the senior center on a Saturday during COVID. There is a camaraderie amongst veterans that I have never seen anywhere else. With this group of veterans or with any veterans, there is no black or white. There is only brother and sisterhood. My papa served in the Army in World War II. My stepdad was a Marine. My uncle was in the Navy, and my younger cousin has been flying Black Hawks. So serving the country is a big part of my family. This group of veterans have been to Vietnam, Korea, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Some were career, others came home when it was time for them to come home. And don't forget their families who stood behind them every step of the way. The things these men and women have seen, I'm gonna try very hard not to get emotional here, have seen and endured, no human should ever have to endure. So when you see someone at Wendy's in their uniform, or you see that man or woman with their hat on their head that tells you they are a veteran, stop and tell them thank you for your service. They are proud to be veterans. The least we can do is let them know every chance we get that we are proud of them. And we thank them every day for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. I also want to mention that there are quite a few of them sitting right here who are also volunteers for our Meals on Wheels program. These men and women have done a lot throughout their lives, and they continue to do a lot for the people of Caswell County and all across this great nation. So again, I think it's only fair that we stand here and if you don't mind, I'm going to ask them to stand, and if you'll just join me in thanking them for their service. I am very proud to know these men and women, and you should be too. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening and to recognize these gentlemen that are here. Also Commissioner Claggett, who's sitting up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Whitaker, if you'll take us through the next few items, please.
Okay, item 10, preliminary findings resolution. This is related to our financing agreement for the UHF system and ambulances. We've been talking about this in different capacities for a while. We've got folks well-versed to speak to us and present this evening. Just to set it up, this is for the financing of the USHF system, the recently acquired ambulance and the planned ambulance remount. And of course, we remain on the local government commission's unit assistance list. And that creates a situation where we have to have approvals for certain purchases, certain capital purchases. So in order to move forward with our January the 6th board meeting at the LGC, we've got several steps that I've been talking to you about and related to resolutions. And so we kind of have two things going on this evening. We have Davenport, our financial consultants, here to talk about the results of our request for proposals related to this financing, and the results and summary of that and a recommendation. And we also have the preliminary findings resolution and our bond counsel here to talk to you about that. And this is put on the agenda as a discussion item with anticipation for you to take action on this at the next meeting. We do have a schedule to keep so that we can stay on track for that January 6th meeting. And I think probably the best place to start is with the Davenport recommendation. And we have Mr. Tyler Smith here to speak to that. And you just tell me when to click and I'll walk through your presentation.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening. Thank you all for having me here today. As Scott mentioned, I'm Tyler Smith with Davenport and Company. We serve as financial advisor to the county, and we've been working with Scott, John, and Melissa on this installment financing contract for the UHF system, ambulance, and ambulance remount. So starting with page 2 of the presentation, just to give a little bit of a background and overview of our process that we've gone through so far. So the county is looking to finance approximately $1.1 million for the UHF system, the ambulance, and the ambulance remount. So back at the end of September, we distributed our request for proposals, our RFP, out to our network of banks. That includes 50+ national, regional, local banking institutions to see if they'd be interested in submitting a proposal. In that RFP that we distributed to the national banking institutions, we asked the banks to provide proposals for an amount up to $1.25 million and a term of 10 years. And we were pleased to receive 4 responses from those banks, which are listed at the bottom of the page. One from Capital One Public Funding, First National Bank, Fidelity Bank, and Roxborough's Savings Bank. And a little bit of a spoiler, we are going to recommend First National Bank for a multitude of reasons, which we'll cover on the next few pages as we summarize some of the responses that we received. So on to page 3 here, out of the four proposals we received, it's worth noting that some of them are truly locked through closing, meaning the rate that you see on the page here will be fixed between now and the closing date. Those ones that are locked are Capital One, First National, and Roxborough. Fidelity's rate is not locked. They would need to revisit that if we were to move forward with them, and at that time, they would then give us a rate. Another note on this page before diving into everything is this loan is eligible to be issued as a bank qualified obligation, which is a designation that is important to some banks and others not as much. But from the county's perspective, the designation for bank qualification is important in the sense that in order for it to be considered bank qualified, the issuer cannot issue more than $10 million of tax exempt debt in a calendar year. So since this loan is just over 1 million, that is why this loan is eligible to be considered bank qualified. So if you look at the table off to the right half, you see the rate column. You'll notice that for some of the banks, we only have one rate there. Those are the banking institutions where there's not a difference in between bank qualified or non-bank qualified status. If you look at the second line in that table for First National Bank, they provided two separate rates. The 4.06% being the bank qualified rate and the slightly higher 4.22% being the non-bank qualified rate. So then just looking at the table there with the rates, you can see that number one, Capital One, and number two, First National Bank, they sort of stand by themselves or alone when it comes to just purely looking at the rate. Those are materially lower than the Fidelity and Roxborough rates at 439 at the bottom. And then moving right on the table, looking at the total debt service, you can see that Capital One and First National Bank produce very similar total debt service costs. And then the last thing on this page to mention is the bank fees for those two banks as well are also very similar. And then moving on to page 4. On this page here, we took a little bit of a more detailed look at the two banks that we consider the top proposals, that being Capital One and First National. So then just moving our way through the table, starting with interest rate line 1, Capital One proposed the 4.04%, again, bank qualified or non-bank qualified, either one there. First National provided a 4.06% bank qualified rate and a 4.22% non-bank qualified rate. Item 2, the prepayment language. And this one right here, First National Bank provides more flexibility for the county. You can see that their loan is prepayable in whole or in part on any date without penalty, whereas Capital One, their loan is prepayable in whole only at par on or after February 1, 2031. So with that one, First National Bank, a little more flexibility there. Moving down to line 4 of the table, the bank fees. Like I mentioned on the previous page, pretty similar here. Capital One, $5,000, and First National Bank up to $5,000. Did want to note here, though, we've had some discussions with the bank after the proposals came in, and they let us know that First National Banks, their fees typically come in at about half of that. But to be conservative here, we'd listed the maximum up to $5,000, but we do anticipate that to come in closer to $2,500. Item 5, both banks here require that the funds be held in an escrow account. Capital One, they would require that the project funds be held by a third-party bank. So if we were to move forward with them, we would need to go out and find a third-party banking institution that would be willing to hold this escrow account for us. Whereas First National, the funds would be held in an escrow account at their own bank. And I did want to point out that the current rate that bank account is earning is 4.05%, which is very attractive with what we're seeing in the current market. And skipping down a few lines to line item 9, the security. Again, with this item here, First National provides more flexibility for the county. For First National, they do not require any liens on the title, whereas Capital One shall be named as lead holder on the title of the ambulance if we were to move forward with them. And then the last thing to compare on this page, at the bottom of the table, item 12, the other considerations. If we were to move forward with First National Bank, and we accept their proposal, and for some reason we are unable to close the loan, excuse me, there would be no penalty or fees paid by the county for not being able to close. Whereas for Capital One, you can see there, the bank would require a breakage fee of 2% of par if we select Capital One as the lender and ultimately do not close the loan. And here on page 5, similar to the setup of the last page, only looking at the two top proposals here, Capital One in column B and First National Bank in column C. So in this detailed analysis here in the table, at the bottom, we have outlined the debt service, the annual debt service expense for each loan along with the total. And you can see there at the bottom that the total debt service for the county is almost identical between the two banks. Again, the Capital One had a 4.04% rate and the First National loan had a 4.06 bank qualified rate, which comes out to a difference of about $1,200 over the course of 10 years. And I did want to note again that with this estimated debt service, we're assuming the full $5,000 in bank fees from First National for conservative reasons. However, again, we expect that to come in closer to $2,500. So when all things are said and done, there's a good chance that the First National debt service could ultimately come in lower than Capital One. And as a result, that takes us to our recommendation on page 6. And our recommendation is to move forward with First National Bank's proposal for the bank qualified loan. Their loan, the rate that they provided is a very low interest rate, 4.06%. They have more flexible prepayment provisions, security requirements, and a more flexible rate lock period. And the last thing I'll hit on here on this page is just walking through the next steps, the timeline we've laid out in the table at the bottom of the page. So November 3rd, we're here today, going through this presentation. And if you all are comfortable with our recommendation and moving forward with First National Bank, then we could check that item off. However, we do have the flexibility to make that decision at the November 17th meeting if that's the decision. Also tonight, the board considers the approval of the preliminary findings resolution. Then the next meeting on November 17th, again, if we don't select the winning bank institution this evening, that can be done then. And then either at the November 17th or the December 1st meeting, that is when the county board would consider the approval of the financing resolutions and forms of documents. And then January 6th, that would be the LGC meeting that Scott mentioned earlier. And mid-January is when we would close on the 2026 IFC after the LGC approval and meeting takes place. And if you all have any questions, happy to answer anything you might have for me.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we've got a couple of questions. Is it customary to finance insurance for 10 years? There's a possibility we could pay the insurance without paying the interest on it over 10 years?
That's a good question. We've seen it in a lot of places. And when you say insurance, can you expand on what you mean on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we itemized the cost is like $103,000. I assume that's for 10 years of insurance was included to bring it down to like 1.25 million.
That's correct. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, that's common. That's not uncommon from what we see in this space. That wouldn't raise any red flags from potential lenders and our perspective.
Okay. And I've got another question too. How does Davenport come into play here? How are you compensated? I don't see anything in here for your fees or anything.
Good question. So our fee is included in the issuance costs, and we have agreement with the county to be compensated if the loan is closed. So we are not getting paid on an hourly rate. We have a predetermined negotiated fee agreement with you all that we are abiding by.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Mr. Clayton.
I'm just curious for my own edification. This UHF is an upgrade in emergency vehicle communications. And I mean,
The UHF upgrade is what he's questioning, is exactly what that is, what you're asking, Mr. Clayton.
well, it's ultra high frequency.
Yeah, but what the money is going to be used for.
Yeah, how's it going to benefit the county?
I can't give you a detailed answer to that, but I'll get back to you with it in detail. But in general, my understanding of it is our system is very outdated with our communication among emergency personnel, and maybe our law enforcement officials can speak more clearly on that. But that's my understanding, that this upgrade is actually behind schedule, and ideally we would have been able to make these improvements a few years back, but I'd be glad to be corrected on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we don't have to take action tonight on as far as what bank. We can wait until the 17th. Am I hearing you right? We can wait until then.
That's correct. And for the long-term schedule, that's right. I failed to mention on one of the pages previously that for Capital One, their rate is locked through January closing if we let them know if we are moving forward their proposal by tomorrow, November 4th. Whereas First National Bank, we have until December 16th to give them confirmation that we're moving forward with them.
So if we wait until the 17th and go with First National, we would still be looking at 4.06.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But Capital One, we would have to make a decision tonight.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have one other question for Scott. I would assume that the proceeds of this loan would go back to the general fund, the fund balance, to reimburse us for what we've taken out to pay for these items. Is that correct?
Correct. It's to my understanding of it, but we have Ms. Sharp here if you have any more detailed answers on that.
Yes, Commissioner Smith, the proceeds will come in as a revenue into the general fund, which in essence replaces the fund balance you've previously appropriated.
Okay, thank you.
But back to that reimbursement resolution, right?
Now, is this amount including the payment that was budgeted for this year? Was it 50 some odd $1,000?
I think so.
Is that amount included in this 1 point, however many million, 1.2, 1.15, whatever it was? We budgeted the first year's payment, I think. Am I right, Jonathan?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
In this year's budget. Is that amount included in this dollar amount?
No,
No.
Okay. So we're just, this 1.1 million covers the outstanding balance on all.
this covers the purchase prices.
Well, if it's covering the purchase price, that payment's included in it then, isn't it? You've lost me there now.
That doesn't, see what you're saying.
If you've budgeted this year's payment, to me, that amount we should be able to deduct that amount off the amount of the loan. But
10%.
No, the loan gets put in place and then you pay for it in the future. So the first payment would be, well, we'd have to wait till we get all the financing terms together, but the first payment will be a few months down the road.
But that payment's already budgeted, correct?
The payments are budgeted,
But it hadn't been paid.
but it hasn't been paid because we haven't borrowed the money yet.
Yeah, we've paid for the ambulance.
We did, and that was following up on Commissioner Smith's question. We paid with the ambulance by appropriating fund balance.
Yep.
You approved the resolution that says we get to pay ourselves back. So we're going to borrow the money to pay ourselves back, and then we'll make the payment on the loan that we've used to pay ourselves back.
I got it. I got it.
Ms. Sharp, if you don't mind. Sorry. So this is actually on the purchase of the ambulance and the remount.
Yes, sir. But the ambulance was delivered, so we had to pay for that already, but we haven't had to pay for the remount because we haven't received it. And no payments have been made toward the UHF system yet because we're waiting to make sure we get approval for the financing before we proceed with anything on the UHF. And I will just mention the UHF is the paging system that is in need of replacement. And Kenneth Everett has been working with the state and the Viper system. So this is a part of that overall system that would just replace all the pagers and all the electronics and the towers and the infrastructure needed to make them work in today's environments.
Okay, so on the ambulance and the remount,
Yes, sir.
my question would be, this is a 10-year plan.
Yes, sir.
And under that 10-year plan, with the 2 ambulances that we'll be having, there's the new one and the remount. And just say that we actually are an aging county. Medical services are more, apt to be used, a higher traffic volume. So I'm just estimating, say for instance, we have 40 or 50,000 miles on the new vehicle that we have. Is 10 years the best option we would have as far as this pay in reference to the vehicle? And what I mean by that is if I take a vehicle right now and say we use $40,000 or $50,000, in 5 years, that's probably 200,000 miles that's on that vehicle. But we'll still have 5 or 6 years financially still obligated.
I believe, Tyler, you can correct me, but I believe we're planning, in essence, the ambulances would be paid over 5 years.
Okay,
So it shows you the total debt service up here. And if you look in the first 5 years, the debt service is higher. So we're paying for the ambulances over 5 years, because you're right, they don't have a 10-year life.
right.
And then the UHF is being paid over the 10 years. So at that time, and we would have to look at, they would probably need to be replaced at that point in time. And then we'd be looking at the best way to do that through another financing.
And yes, and that would be my only reason really for asking, because we actually still have more than the 2 that we bought one and we're doing the remount. And in a couple years, 2 or 3 years, somebody be saying, hey, Commissioner, we missing 2 or 3 other vehicles that we have now that has 400,000 miles. So, okay, that's where I'm at.
And just because we're borrowing these for these ambulances doesn't mean we can't come back in a year or 2 and borrow for the next ones that need to be replaced. This is just taking care of the first 2 in the pipeline, and then we'll look at what a long-term capital replacement plan needs to be for, that was interim manager's Pascal her plan was to look at all of the long-term needs for capital and when they need to be replaced and what would be the best financing strategy for that. So I believe those are things that Manager Whitaker will have to address in the upcoming budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith. I do see on here where you said that this rate is locked in. Go back to the page on it. On capital.
Page 3.
The rate is locked in through December 16th through January 31st of 26.
That's correct.
And I understand, I mean, it's kind of hard for you to figure this, but what could this rate go to within the life of this loan?
That's a great question. I mean, short-term expectations from the market is that the Federal Reserve or the Fed will continue to lower interest rates. However, we don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
If we did, we'd be doing a different job right now. However, we think this is a very good rate, and we were pleased with all four proposals that we received from the county, from the banking institutions for the county. And we feel comfortable with this rate that they provided here. We think it's fair and competitive, and think it'd be a good opportunity for the county to move forward with. Not to say that there isn't a possibility that rates could go lower in between now and then. However, this is a guarantee for us. We have this offer in hand. There's can't tell what would happen the next few weeks. Rates could also move the opposite way and skyrocket if there was some event.
Right.
So
I guess that's my question is, let's say something makes a turn upward and interest rates go up. When I did my home, I locked it in on the rate, but I was told, well, it could increase, but it couldn't go up any more than 2 or 3 points. Is that, I mean,
it's another good question. No, there's no sort of collar on this rate proposed by either bank. The rate that you see here is for firm. So the 4.06% for the bank qualified or 4.22%, that would not move. That's not subject to any ceiling or floor with respect to the rest of the market movement that you may see.
thank you.
I could just mention one thing, Commissioner Rose, and that was the reason why when we were looking at the options, because interest rates could go lower, First National gives us the full flexibility to prepay at any time. So let's say 2 years from now, interest rates have really dropped. We're getting ready to do another financing. You could look at refinancing this down the road because with First National, it can be prepaid at any time. So even though First National's interest rate is just a few basis points higher, the flexibility of their terms is well worth the additional couple of basis points.
No penalty for early payoff?
No. Where you do have a pretty substantial penalty for early payoff with Capital One.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, I was a little anxious of what response we would get from the RFP. And at the end of the day, we've got 4 responsible submissions with 2 of those very close. And so I was pleased with that.
Very much so. And it just speaks to the level of confidence that these lending institutions has in the county and its leadership and management and staff in place.
Any other questions? Is it the consensus of the board that we hold off until this meeting on the 17th to make a final decision? I think so. So we're gonna wait till the next meeting to pick the bank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next part of this, introduce our bond counsel that's included in this package if you move forward with these resolutions. And Mr. Jessup, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Bob Jessup. I'm a lawyer with a law firm called Sanford Holzhauser. Our office is in Carborough, and we've been asked and delighted to work as bond counsel for the county on this project, which means we're the specialized outside lawyers who work mostly with local government lending to work for you on this project, where we represent the county in this project. Part of our job is to handle the proceedings that the board has to approve to put the loan in place. And there are 2. And you've got drafts of the first one in your packet tonight. You've got one that identifies First National as the winning lender, but you've got an alternate version that just makes these findings of fact that the local government commission will be looking for as part of the application process. And it's also true that you can wait on either one of those to the mid-month meeting, or you could adopt, if you're ready, the one that just says, we're going to borrow money for the UHF and ambulance projects, and we want the LGC to approve it. You could approve that one tonight if you were so inclined. Be happy to answer any questions, but the resolutions themselves, again, simply make a determination to move forward, and they state certain conclusions that the LGC staff will be looking for, like you've decided that borrowing money for this is the best way to approach it. Like this is a good project for the county and this is the best way to go about financing it. I do want to address one other question rather from the previous, because I think there may have been a little miscommunication. If you can go back to the slide that has the budget, the sources and uses, because I think we may have had a, back in Tyler's slide. All right, yeah. You go down to the one that has the sources and the uses of the funds, because, and again, a little further. I'm sorry, I should have noticed what page. Right there. On line 8, I think the question was about financing insurance. Line 8 is the cost of issuance. That's the total cost of the professionals and other financing costs. That's what's being financed over the 10-year period. As the manager and Tyler said, and Sharp, this loan rate is going to be fixed. It won't go up. It won't go down as soon as you decide what bank you want to work with. Again, the process is to have this resolution either tonight or on the 17th. Then we have a final resolution that's currently on our agenda or on our schedule for action on December 1 that gives final approval to the actual documents and financing terms. We need to have both of those resolutions adopted before, by the middle of December. We need this findings resolution done by not later than December 1st to stay on the LGC's calendar. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the legal process. Otherwise, if you are so inclined, you could have a motion to adopt the form of the resolution with the bank not identified, or you could just hold it all open until the next meeting.
Questions, gentlemen? Do you wish to undertake approving the preliminary finance resolution tonight, or would you like to just hold it off all until the next meeting? Because next meeting, I believe, Mr. Jessup, we'll have to do the preliminary and the final. Is that right? Or can the final wait till December 1?
That the final can wait, and because it approves the actual loan documents.
Okay.
And we don't, and to prepare final loan documents, we need to get feedback from the lender on our drafts. If we haven't picked the lender, we can't get that feedback.
All right. If everybody's good with it, we'll just hold off until the 17th. Give everybody plenty of time to think through this thing, and if there's something you have a question with, we can get with Mr. Jessup, either
Right.
Mr. Smith, and ask the questions.
Absolutely. Manager knows where to find us. I just want to say thanks very much. We appreciate the opportunity to work for the county on this project.
Thank you. All right, item 11, the audit contract. I believe Ms. Sharp is going to talk to us about that for 25.
Yes, sir. In your packet was included the audit contract for the FY25 audit. We need that in place in order for the auditors to start working on that. And that would include mostly trying to get some early test work done. One thing I will note is in the contract, the LGC requires a date by which the audit is expected to be submitted. We have put that date as the end of February. That's the earliest that the auditor would make a commitment to saying they can complete the audit.
That's for fiscal 25.
For fiscal 25, yes. Yes. Just where we are in the process and being behind all the other 25 audits that were ready, it's not realistic at this point to be done by December, but we think the February date is very realistic. I'm still going to keep pushing for something earlier, but that's just the that's the date that they have to put. They have to put a date in the contract, and that's the date that they're comfortable with saying they can commit to completing the audit by then, provided the county provides them all the information they need.
And this amount of 85.5 is in this year's budget to pay for this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just had one question. How does that contract amount compare to previous years?
It's a slight increase, which is typically customary to
A
go up a little bit.
Reasonable increase?
Yes. Oh, very reasonable.
Right.
Yes.
All right, question number two. Do we ever see any cost overrides with this auditing firm to where they come back and say with the condition of books were not as we expected, and we're going to charge you X number of dollars to catch it up?
That happened for the 21
Okay.
audit. That has not happened since then because we have been working to provide them the information that they needed, and they have not had to expend more effort than had been anticipated.
Any other questions? So you don't need for us to approve this tonight, or do you?
I mean, I don't think 2 weeks will make a difference if you want to wait. We're still finishing up the last little remnants on the 24 audit. So, I mean, if you prefer to wait, I don't think it's a problem. I don't, Manager Whitaker.
Well, and just to be clear, when you do approve it, it's going to have 2/28/26 as that date.
Oh, they don't have the revised copy?
Not in the packet. I'll
Okay.
just make sure when you make the motion, just do so with the understanding or clarity that that'll be the date on that. I did put it on the agenda anticipating that it would be a discussion item and you'd wait until the next meeting. But of course, you have the option to approve if you feel compelled to go ahead and approve it.
What's the pleasure of the board? You want to wait? Are you comfortable with it moving forward tonight?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we go in and adopt their contract price to do the audit, to go ahead and get that behind us and we can move on.
I have a motion from Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second from Commissioner Rose. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the audit contract with Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company, let it be known by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Oh, but you're not through, are you?
I'm coming back.
Item 12, budget amendment number 12, senior services special revenue funds.
Yes, sir. And oh, good, Janine's still here if you got any programmatic questions. But we did a budget amendment for the sheriff that was very similar to this a couple of months ago. Whereas the senior program, they collect dollars that accumulate, and then for them to be spent, they have to be appropriated. The biggest amount running through there has been the amounts for their trips, where they collect money and then they pay the travel agency. Fortunately, Janine, I know she's happy this is going to happen, but going forward, the participants will pay the travel agency directly. So that will significantly reduce the cash that has to go through the county's hands, which is much easier for Janine and her staff. But in order to get everything appropriated that's been accumulated to date, we need this budget amendment to say, here's the balances that they have to date and anticipating the one last trip that's going to run through the county's books. We need that appropriation authority for them to spend the money. So all that cash is, except for the future trip, is sitting there, but they don't have the authority to spend it until you appropriate it.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Does Senior Services Special Revenue Funds Fund 290 include Meals on Wheels?
It includes some contributions that people make toward Meals on Wheels, but most of the Meals on Wheels dollars are in the general fund. That includes some donations, but all the operating dollars in the general fund.
And what was the result of Plan B for this Meals on Wheels And the reason I ask that is, the taxpayer is still providing assets towards Meals on Wheels by means of vehicles and manpower. I requested, I don't know, a month ago or so, to be kept abreast of this situation, but unfortunately haven't been. So I'm just trying to be brought up to date.
That's probably a question for Janine.
Incidentally, I think Meals on Wheels is a good program.
These are two separate entities. Meals on Wheels are actually a grant that we receive, and we're reimbursed by those grants. And that is only for the amount that we have provided meals for that month. When the email went out to you just a few weeks ago, it was in discussion about the state letting us know we may only have enough funds to reimburse you through November. So that means I've got to figure out if we're going to continue to feed these folks after November, how is that going to happen? And you haven't heard anything back on the civic part, the civic organizations, because I haven't finalized all of that yet. I'm still in that process, but they're two different entities. As far as the trips go, that's money literally in and out. There's no difference in that. But with the Meals on Wheels, that is a grant that we receive. It's a block grant we receive every year, and that is by reimbursement.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve the budget amendment?
So move.
I have a motion from Commissioner Ingram,
Second.
second from Commissioner Rose. Excuse me. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies. Okay, item 13, Citizen Advisory Board Policy. Mr. Attorney, this one's on you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, good evening. So in your agenda packet tonight, you will see the Citizen Advisory Board Policy, which is currently in place with revisions to address nepotism highlighted in yellow. And the highlight should be in section 2H of the policy in your agenda packet. And as stated in previous meetings, state law doesn't necessarily prohibit family members from serving on the citizen advisory boards or subcommittees of this board. However, state law also allows this Board of Commissioners and local boards to enact nepotism policy. So this is the draft that you have before you, and it's just a draft at this point. So feel free to make any recommendations or revisions as you see fit.
Gentlemen, you see that what the attorney is talking about there on the screen. We should have had a chance to look over it. Now's the time to hash it out. Anybody's got any questions or comments? Either one about it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
are all previous board and committee appointments grandfather?
Well, Commissioner Claggett, as the highlighted portion of the Citizen Advisory Board policy states in the last paragraph, it states family members appointed prior to the execution of this sub-policy are exempt. So to answer your question, as it relates to this language, the answer would be in the affirmative. Yes, sir.
I have another question. Why is this change in policy only addressed in board and committee appointments and not the everyday conducting of the people's business? I mean, this verbiage is mentioned in the Caswell County employee personnel policy, ethics. And
I-
if this is good enough for appointments to committees and boards, why isn't it good enough for everyday business of doing the people's business?
So I'll be glad to address that. So, because I'm the one that suggested for this policy that you requested, the board requested to be placed inside the Citizen Advisory Board policy. So my understanding was the intent of your request related to, you generally say boards and committees as I do. This CAB policy clarifies right there at the beginning that this policy applies to citizen boards, committees, commissions, and councils. So all of those are the same in relation to this. And so we thought, or I will say I thought, that your intent was largely for boards and committees because those are the folks that this board, the commissioners, are appointing. And because of that, I thought the best place for this to be memorialized was within this policy. And so our attorney drafted the nepotism policy, and we had some discussion about where would that best live, and both were on the same page that it was within this policy. So we, in essence, created it as a sub-policy for committees, boards, commissions, and councils.
Wouldn't this policy be part of our Caswell County equal employment? Wouldn't HR have some kind of say?
Are you suggesting employment, that employment decisions would have the
Equal
same
employment
kind of?
opportunity. I'm asking, would this possibly be a part of that? I mean, Caswell County states right now, employment with Caswell County government is a public trust. And what I'm wondering is, if the verbiage is good enough for appointments to boards and committees, why isn't this verbiage good enough in conducting everyday operations of people's business?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I understood the intent as, which was appointments made by the Board of County Commissioners. You would not be appointing employees, the general employees of the county. So I thought we were responding to the board's intent. And I'd be glad to be corrected if I misunderstood that.
I think from my line of thinking, Mr. Manning, that was the intent. We were addressing appointments to boards, citizen advisory boards, however you want to call them, committees, going to various names, I know, but that was my line of thinking. That was just to address that, not county employees, because, this board doesn't have any say-so in the day-to-day operations of the county. That's your job.
And I would just add that if you did want that to apply to the hiring of employees, I think that's a bigger issue that really needs to be looked at closer, and our attorney might have something to advise on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think the comparison is like apples to oranges. Caswell's got a very limited labor pool, and I would hate to see us lose talent because their nephews working somewhere in the county together. So I think we should frown on that change.
Just for the record, nepotism is the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives, friends, or associates.
Any other comments, or questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
This right here actually came about with the steering committee. Like I said before, when it came to the steering committee, and we have a sitting commissioner that actually asked to be on the board as a volunteer. There were two commissioners that decided that they were going to do it. 19 citizens that were involved in this. So we actually added a third commissioner. I've never had a problem with anyone that was going on that board. However, if a commissioner is going on that board and the spouse is on that board, I'm looking at this from ethics. I'm not looking at this from anything else other than ethical in character. Someone could have easily said that I recuse myself. That's my only argument. And like I said, and I said it then, just like I'll say now, it doesn't matter to me which way we go, but is this the precedent that we would like to set? Because I actually have a highly qualified wife who is highly, highly educated. But if my wife was on the same board as I'm on, then guess what? Someone else would have raised that question. So that's where I'm at with that. Thank you.
All right.
I refuse to call this a personal attack, but the Castle County Personnel Policy, 4.3, employment of relatives. Employment of an immediate family member of the governing body or administrative official of the county is strongly discouraged. No person shall be hired or assigned to work under the administrative influence or supervision of an immediate family member. Now, the reason I volunteered is because I have experience, period.
And like I said before, I have no problem with you volunteering. Because if I would have had a problem then, I would have spoke on it that night. But I didn't have a problem with that. Neither did I have a problem with your wife being on the board until both of you decided to be on the same board. And that's exactly where I felt like someone should have recused himself. But like I said, it's done, it's over with. It doesn't bother me which way it goes from this point forward. Now, but the other thing of you talking about employees, no, that's a whole different ball of wax. We're talking about this episode that happened 2 meetings ago.
It's the same standards, and thank you for your explanation.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Not, we will put this on action items for the 17th of the month, next meeting. Well, a lot of action items on the 17th, I can tell. Okay. Item 13A, part-time COLA adjustment. I'll turn this over to Commissioner Smith.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was contacted last week by a part-time employee of the county, and he, for the first time, made me aware that part-time employees did not receive the 1.5% COLA for the budget year fiscal year starting July 1st. And I went back and looked. I told him I would research it and I would ask some other people about it and see what they knew. I went back and researched it, and I found the video from May of this year where we discussed the cost of living increases. And the county manager at the time made the statement that it'll be across the board. So I assume that all full-time and permanent part-time employees would receive that increase. So I just think we owe it to the part-time employees to have this discussion.
Right?
I know we don't have the money and we don't have a budget for it, but do we need to see if we can find some money to catch them up? Because as bad as we need employees, we would hate to lose employees because they're not being compensated equally with those working full-time, in my opinion.
How many part-time employees do we have?
I checked into that earlier today. And I think I was told it's 110 part-time employees. I'm not sure whether they were some temporary employees in that or not. And I don't know whether that included the Board of Commissioners or not. But my statements are not pertaining to the Board of Commissioners. We leave our salary as is. I'm talking about part-time staff.
Could finance and the county manager pull us some numbers out and have it for us at the next meeting as far as number of employees, what a 1.5% raise would equate to in dollars, and something very creative about where those dollars will come from?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I remember that being discussed. It was meant to be left out.
I don't recall the discussion at all.
They were
Either
trying
way.
to take the number of work, and that was one of the ways they was doing it.
But you said 110 part-time?
That's what I was told earlier today.
Wow. But if y'all could get pull that information out for us.
It was in the ordinance, budget ordinance, that only regular employees would get that. So we were all under the impression that did not include part-time employees unless they were permanent, and we hardly have any of those.
Now, I need, for my own personal benefit, some definition as to what part-time, do we have permanent part-time employees?
There are a handful
Mhm.
of
Yes.
permanent part-time.
Yeah.
We have full-time, we have permanent part-time, and then we have part-time. Am I thinking about this right?
Yes.
I'd like to see a breakdown of those, how many is in each category. And for those that didn't get a cost of living adjustment, what it would take dollar-wise to get them back. But if it was in the ordinance, as the deputy manager states, it was approved that way, but still something we need to talk about, I think. Maybe I need to read the budget ordinance a little closer myself.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the other question I got, I guess I'll direct it to Deputy County Manager. The part-time salaries, are they all the same across the board, or is that part-time rate different for every department?
No, it's different based on which department you're in and what qualifications or whatever that are required for whatever position that you're in. Because I know, for example, what a part-time catch driver probably gets paid is different from what someone from the sheriff's department or 911 probably gets paid.
So even if that employee does not work, but, let's say they work 10 hours this month and they don't work any next month, that rate for that job would be what's increasing from here on out, correct?
Right, and just like with our pool, like say, for example, at CATS, I budget for like how many hours that I know that we're going to need. So one worker may be working more of those hours than another, but no employee that's considered part-time should be getting over 1,000 hours. So that's how I base when I'm trying to figure out, how much I need to budget for part-time.
Right.
Because especially if you've got, employees who have retired from the county You definitely don't want them to get over that 1,000 hours because you will get in trouble, with the retirement system.
Right. Other question I had to that was, none of the part-time people face any insurance increases either, correct?
Yeah, because part-timers, they don't get any of the
Correct.
benefits.
Thank you.
Theirs is just salary and that's all. Okay.
Correct.
Y'all could get us a little more info and we'll discuss it a little further. All right, updates, Mr. Manager.
So I have a few things, but I want to start with the SNAP program that you've probably been hearing a lot about on the news. And we've got our social services director and staff. Are you back there? There you are. Here for some questions about the programming. If you want to come up, that would be great, just in case they have any specific questions, because I've been trying to keep up with where we are with the reimbursements, with the shutdown and the funding. And I walked into this meeting and I think right before I came into the meeting, there was news that came in about the reimbursements. So I'll just turn that part over to you to talk about kind of where we are in the latest news late this afternoon.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Michelle Waddell. I'm the director at Caswell County Department of Social Services, and I have Jennifer Anderson with me. She is the income maintenance supervisor specializing in food and nutrition services. As the county manager mentioned, right before we came, we got word that North Carolina will be paying out half the benefits. So the residents of Caswell that are receiving SNAP benefits will receive half. We do not know when that allotment will go out, but as of right now, that will be released for them. So they will receive half of their benefits this month. There's also a delay in retroactive benefits. That's something a little is separate than what the federal government shutdown has affected, but these are retroactive benefits that are due to people for months prior. So we don't know when they will get them, but if they were due to receive them, they will receive them when they're released.
And I had a call on Friday with other county managers and the state association, and just trying to keep up with all the changes and what might be coming in. So that's the latest update. There was a lot of talk on that call about what counties are doing to prepare. I was just sharing with Ms. Waddell, my church yesterday had got a call from their local food bank really pushing for donations this year for November and December. And I know that you sent me a food pantry sheet, and I thought I'd put that up on the screen for folks if anybody wants to take a picture of that for contacts and location and distribution. But and in other counties that have more staffing, they're increasing staffing for call centers because they're already getting calls about this. But is there anything else you want to add about what things we can do to help, or the community can do to help?
I think the biggest thing is just letting the community know that there are some resources out there. Union Church is also a good resource. They give out food once a month. We're already receiving calls. We are being as patient as we can, because I think a lot of people think that we control it, and we don't. We don't control how much money people receive. We do not control when they get their money. So that's one of the hardest things for us, is trying to explain to them that we don't have any control over this. But we, as an agency, we actually have some activities coming up where we'll be doing a non-perishable food drive ourselves. We already give out food to some of the clients that come in anyway. So we're just going to replenish our stash and kind of keep it in case someone comes in and says they have no food.
Can you, and you might not, can tell us, how many residents receive SNAP benefits in the county?
You want to answer that?
We have almost 2,000 households that contain around 4,000 individuals.
Okay, so that's 18% of the population. Am I doing my math sort of halfway right? Close, yeah. Less than 20, still over 50. Okay. And you're saying that North Carolina will receive 50% of its normal,
Yes.
what you were expecting,
Yes.
but you don't know when you're gonna get the money.
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, ladies.
And a couple other items, you had mentioned recently, the drive on, Fire Tower Road, the entrance to Oakwood Elementary, and that, stacking, that's happening there along the side of the road. So I had reached out to set an appointment, for myself and Commissioner Smith, and, discovered they were ahead of us. So, DOT has a specific, municipal school transportation assistant group, within DOT. And I spoke with, the district engineer, there, Jeremy Delop, and what they're doing is studying, this site to see what can be done. They actually had a kickoff meeting for that today. And, really, and I've been part of a similar kind of situation like this. So what DOT likes to do is they really work closely with the school to see what, if anything, can be done internally to that site to minimize the traffic that's actually out on the road before they start trying to work with, a turn lane or some kind of DOT related changes. So that was really the first part of this study that they're doing, is talking to the school officials to really figure out, is there any way we can get some of that traffic more internal to the property and alleviate some of that traffic flow. But what I want to report to you is they're on it, and they will keep us updated. I'll keep you updated, but don't really feel like there's a need, unless you need me to engage with them other than what I have, because they've initiated this study. They seem to be serious about it, and promise to keep me updated. And another item that I came into this morning, before I got here, actually got a call in the sheriff's office. We had a boiler that was no longer boiling. It was instead leaking water out the bottom and had made quite a mess in the sheriff's office, and some of the tile floor into the office, and the carpeted floor into the server closet. And I like to compliment our maintenance staff, particularly today, our sheriff's office staff, our IT staff. I called Kara in because we had server equipment very close to that water. And long story short, a lot of work was done today trying to figure out how to best feed those folks that the jail cooks for. And we've got the boiler largely disassembled. There's a bypass providing water in the short term. This is going to be an expensive project. The boiler itself is a little over 47 grand. So this is going to be about a $50,000 or a little more repair that's got to be done as fast as we can do it. And that means next week, if we get all our ducks in a row with signing a contract on that, we'll be replacing that all next week. And there's a lot of coordination there that's above my pay grade in terms of understanding how the pressure system and the water and all the components works, but that was our big maintenance problem of the day, and will be for the next week. And in addition to that item going kaput, I'll reference our deputy manager related to our transportation program.
Skylar Pascal, who is now the new director of CATS, she called me on Friday and said that bus 26, which is one of our wheelchair lift vehicles, was at Stearns Ford being serviced. And she said that they discussed that it was engine failure. The engine light had came on, and prior to that, on October the 20th, which was 11 days before this, it had just had an expensive tune-up due to the engine light coming on. Then we get told that we have complete engine failure going on Friday the 31st, and it seems to be suspect that the camshaft failure due to the bus has low compression. They said that it would take a week for the motor to get here, and for then, they would have to make the repairs. So I know that Stephen at Stearns, he's the manager, and I've dealt with him a lot over the last several years. And I asked him about that, told him I was a little concerned that, we had just brought it in for a major, tune-up and for the engine light being owned. And after spending, it was close to $1,400 on this tune-up, why, maybe this issue wasn't discovered during that time. And he did tell me that he would be looking into it, but not always everything can, be discovered at that point. But I told him I would appreciate him looking into it, because the estimate that we've been given for this new motor that we need to get is, they said at the most, and it could be less, is $16,141.41. So I did tell Stephen that it looked like to me it could definitely be discounted, because it seems like to me it was kind of a waste of the money that we put out for repair 11 days later, that we get told that the motor needs to be replaced. So he's looking into this for us, and is supposed to be getting back with me, and hopefully it will be less than that. I mean, CATS has never had an engine in 25 years to have failure. It's just one of those, I guess, fluke things that it was time for us to have our turn like other transit systems. But I mean, all of our vehicles are well maintained. They're kept on the schedule like they're supposed to. They're done completely by the Ford standards. They're at a certified Ford dealership. And this is a 20-foot LTV, and it's a 2022 model. And the replacement for it is not until FY 27. So it's in the FY 27 that we presented back in the fall in September. It's in to be replaced then, but that's not helping us out right now. And it does have 156,845 miles on it at this time. So we will probably at the next meeting be bringing a budget amendment. And fortunately, I guess it's fortunate for the county at least, it will be enterprise funds that should be able to be used to, to take care of this. I was hoping that it was possible that maybe we have some buses that were supposed to have made it in before June 30th, but they're still on a delay getting delivered. And I thought it could be a possible attempt to see if maybe one of the buses that it was replacing, that we could put it in, in place of this one. But when I checked on the status of those, it said that, it could be December even before we get those. And I just don't think that they can go that long, because that is one of the lift buses in the fleet. And the way that the Medicaid transportation is now, and it's spread out as those buses are, we don't really have any backups in our fleet. And the state does not allow us to keep any of our vans as backups either, to provide transportation services. That's just a requirement that they have. So I just wanted to give you an update that we'll be looking at probably the next meeting. Hopefully we'll have confirmed numbers and be able to do a budget amendment, but it'll be through the enterprise funds, but we're just not budgeted for engine failure.
All right. Anything else, Scott? Is that all you, manager, have?
Well, that's all I have.
Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an update for the board on the county delinquent tax collections for the 2024 delinquent taxes. My office has received 86 files from the tax office since April of this year. 59 of those parcels have been paid or are currently in a payment plan. And the remaining files, we're either waiting on service on the owners, and also a few of these files are in estates that will be sold soon, and also in stages of the title examination process. And I have a spreadsheet here, and I could email this out to the board members later this week if you'd like. Thank you.
That all you got, Rose?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're down to commissioner comments and questions. I'll start with you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. I had something for our county manager. We've been talking about audits. We've been talking about 24 audits and then 25 audits. It's my understanding that 25, for the most part, is complete. We're waiting on the auditors to come in. We've had a delay because, is that your understanding?
Well, the 24.
The 24?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And do we have a date as to when they are coming in?
That conversation was with Jonna Sharp, and I just know by the end of November, it's
Okay.
supposed to be
Okay.
done.
All right. So it's my concern that, we're behind now. So we're trying to catch up, but I don't want it to run over into the 25 because based on what you said earlier tonight, we're pretty much told the auditors would have it ready by the end of February, I think. Right? And they will be prepared to jump on that at that time and knock it out and hopefully can give us a report sometime in a month or so after that.
Yeah, but my expectation with the way auditors typically work is, as we've been talking about, we're a victim of being behind, just lower on the priority list behind all these current 25 audits with other jurisdictions. So those will presumably mostly be behind our auditor at that point, so they can focus on, as they focus on finishing our 24, they can be have the capacity to do the 25. So
Okay, so
feel better about it after the first of the year. I don't feel great about anything on 25 before then.
okay, so that's a plan, and we're going to have it ready for them by the end of February, and they're prepared to jump on it before the next audits come around for the various counties. They can go ahead and get to it and knock it out.
Well, our part will be ready before then.
But
Before
are
the
they
end.
are they making a commitment to us that they will come in at that time?
That's their commitment.
Okay.
Per the contract that you'll hopefully be approving at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Totten? Good. Mr. Holt? Mr. Pike?
Yes, I'd like to be provided with the amount billed from January 1st, 2025, and the amount paid to date November 3rd, 2025, for the Economic Development Director, the financial consultant, Davenport and Company LLC, and the minutes preparation contract with Ms. Michelle Parker Evans.
And I'm sorry, could you give me those dates again?
What's that?
Could you please give me those dates again from what period to what period?
January 1st, 2025 to date, which is today, November 3rd, 2025.
Got it, Scott. You got everything you need.
Would you like that just emailed to you and the
Yeah,
full
that's
board?
Commissioner Ingram,
No, sir.
Commissioner Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Like to thank Ms. Janine for her presentations on our veterans, and if they were still here, I would acknowledge them again, but they're not. I do understand. I wouldn't want to hang around either. But but I just would like to thank them for everything they've done for this county and this nation. The only thing I do have, Scott, I would like to get an update on where we stand with the school system on the projects that we budgeted for them. Just kind of see where we're standing with.
Okay, I'll request that.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I do have one thing. There seems to be, I don't know if some miscommunication or confusion when it comes to finance department and some of the volunteer fire departments getting funds. Back, I know last spring, some payments were mixed up. What was supposed to go to one fire department went to a different fire department. And they don't, they don't all get equal funding. It's based on, property values or households or however it's done. Well, and I didn't realize this, that the county can put the money in the bank. They can also go in there and take it out. I didn't know the county had that authority. They can make a deposit, but they can make a withdrawal as well, because they did it that time. That's something I would like to have checked on. I don't know that the lending institution should be letting them do that, for one thing. That doesn't seem exactly right.
So is there one particular one that?
No, there were several that were mixed up back in the spring. Like Pelham's portion may have went to Leesburg. Leesburg's portion may have went to Cherry Grove. It got jumbled up, so to speak. Now, in the past month, supposedly payments, or not payments, the money was deposited into the fire department, in the 10 departments' accounts. Departments went to check, the money wasn't there. Checked with finance, finance says, oh yeah, we've done it. Department says, no, the money's not there. Somebody has dropped the ball and is not, so to speak, clicking enough buttons to finish the process, is what I've been told. You have to initiate it, and then you have to do 2 or 3 other things. The bank gives you a code. I don't know how all this works. I'm not into finance, but I know this happened last week. So that's something that
Okay, and
they
that,
kind of need to get on their P's and Q's on that.
okay, and that's the first I've heard of that. We'll look into that.
Because what position does Kenneth have? Is he with the Fire Association Everett? Because he's the one who notifies the treasurers when it's done. Yeah, something with I guess one of them with the Fire Association lets the treasurers know, the treasurers with each department, that the funds have been deposited. And I know he had either 5 or 6 different departments to get back at him and says, the funds are not there. And finance hadn't completed the process evidently. We all depend on these volunteers in the fire service. So, and we've budgeted this money and we need to get that money to them when it's supposed to go to them. And that's all I got. All right, upcoming events and announcements.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I just had a question for County Manager. Do we have a visual organizational chart? Or, I've been on the website. We have it listed on the website, department heads, but do we actually have an organizational chart?
We do. I'm trying to remember if that is within the personnel manual. I don't think it's there, but
Yeah, I was just wondering because it helps with accountability. I'm just wondering. It might be something we might want to have. And it helps the ease of organizations, and you can plug in names
Right.
before.
So you would like to see that not by position, but by, meaning let's say a department
Yeah, and it helps.
position, but by
it helps-
name. You want names as
it helps-
tied to that.
Right. It helps with organizational flow. It would help everybody actually. And it creates accountability. It'd be great to have.
I'll add that to my long list.
All right, upcoming events and meetings. Tomorrow is election day. I know we do have municipal elections here in the town. November the 8th, the farm tour, as Ms. Page spoke of back during public comments, starting at 9, running to 4 that afternoon. Also on the 8th, pumpkin prowl at the Animal Park at the Conservative Center on Hughes Mill Road from 11 to 3. County offices will be closed on the 11th of Veterans Day. The 17th, Board of Commissioners meeting here. On the 18th, Board of Adjustment meeting. The 20th, a joint meeting between the county, Yanceville, and Milton. We will be meeting in Milton, if I'm reading this right, correct?
Yes, and it will be at that address, and parking is a big deal. I'll try to remember to send you the mayor's directions about that.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Planning board meeting on the 25th, and county offices will of course be closed the 27th and 28th for Thanksgiving. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Smith, second from Commissioner Totten. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very